Boom! Ladies and gentlemen, we are back! The No Name Cinema Society. It's our classic movie discussion. And we are here to talk about Mary Poppins, episode 40.3. Very exciting. Hello, my name is Jonathan Betzler. I'm one of your hosts, the No Name Cinema Society. Very excited to talk about Mary Poppins, and you'll see why in the near future. In the meantime, let me introduce my colleagues. Let me first start with he's a movie critic, but he's also a part-time chimney sweep. Ladies and gentlemen, Jay Money.
I was waiting to see which cast of Mary Poppins you would assign me, and I'm not displeased by this. I would sweep a chimney.
Yes, and you do a damn fine job of it, I'm sure. On the flip side, however, we have our lawyer / money-gruppeting capitalist banker, Davie Joseph.
Hi.
He's so charming. It's mind-boggling sometimes. Folks, this is so exciting. This is our 40th classic. Can you believe we've been doing this for 3 years and 40 classics? Here is a chart of our classics. Every time we do the 10, we show you a chart of the last 10 we did here, 31 through 40, starting with Cleopatra here at number 31, all the way down through number 40, Mary Poppins here. Guys, this is a pretty good list of movies.
It's the best list of movies.
Let's not get crazy, but it's pretty good. That's our classics 31 through 40. We recommend you watch any of those shows. This is the schedule of movies. Every couple weeks we do a current feature, followed by an indie, followed by a classic, followed by our sound off. So here's this batch. We just talked about the indie Amour 4 days ago. We're about to open up a can of worms on Mary Poppins. Also coming up in 4 days is our sound off, is where we're going to have our top 5 1966 films of all time. We are going to answer some of your questions about our 1966 in Review show. And also we're going to do something we've never done before, and that is we're going to review a script. There's a movie coming out called Bright. It's coming on Netflix with Will Smith and Joel Edgerton, and we got a hold of the script, and we're going to review it for you in the sound off. That'll be a new segment. Hopefully it happens more often, but this is the first time. Inaugural, one might say. And I'm going to roll right into the trivia tidbit. Guys, I'm on a roll, so I'm just going to keep going. The trivia was, this is the only top 6 Oscar winner for this major distributor. And obviously now you know that Disney is the major distributor. In fact, they're the largest distributor in terms of market share currently, because they've got both all the Pixar films, they've got the Star Wars films, and of course the Marvel films. They dominate the marketplace right now, but they've only had one ever Oscar win in the top 6 categories, and that is this film, Julie Andrews winning for Best Actress for Mary Poppins in 1964. That is the only live-action Disney film actually ever to get a Best Picture nomination. It had several get animated film nominations, including Beauty and the Beast, Up, and Toy Story 3. Anyway, so that's the trivia. You guys have anything to say about anything I just said? Anything fun?
The trivia was fantastic. Thank you for sharing it with us.
Yeah.
You're so believable when you say something like that.
I mean it in the core of me. I honestly mean that. It was
from the deep bottom of your heart. My next question though is, are you ready for the summary?
Yeah. Let's hear it.
All right.
Let's do it up.
Time to talk about Mary Poppins, ladies and gentlemen. Most of you have seen it, but anyway, this movie is about the Banks children who managed to get rid of another nanny. And so Mr. Banks decides to take it upon himself to find a replacement. Enter the mysterious and practically perfect Mary Poppins, who blows away the competition, literally. The children soon discover that there's a spot of magic about their new nanny, who managed to teach the children, and perhaps a few other folks as well, about life through a series of unusual adventures. Before we get started, because to talk about the screening that I had, because Jay Money, you were at the screening in New York.
I was.
Okay, so before we did that, I just want to point out that I want to play this clip from our Tomorrowland episode, because back then we did the top 5 as part of an episode. So this was 2 years ago tonight, as it happens. And so as part of that episode, we did our top 5 Disney live action films, and Mary Poppins was my number 3 film on that list. And Davie, admitted he didn't see it. So just take a look at this.
And I respect Mary Poppins. I think that's the kind of movie that it's fine. It's not the kind of thing that really connected with me as a kid. It doesn't really connect with me now, but I certainly can understand why it would fit on this list.
And Dave Joe, you've not seen it, I guess?
No, I have not.
That is.
Have you seriously not seen Mary Poppins, Davie Joe?
I don't want to do these lists anymore. I'm on record as saying that I don't want to play.
Okay, so that's a clip. That happened 2 years ago. I screened the film on December 10th, 2016, and we come to learn, J Money, you bastards, you also had never seen Mary Poppins.
That's a lie, JP. I actually have seen Mary Poppins numerous times. So
I have you on audio. I have the audio recording of that screening, and you acknowledge you had never seen it.
I don't know what you're referring to. That probably isn't true. It's probably some fake news put out there by somebody. But I've seen.
Maybe Joe, how do you feel about this revelation?
I'm hurt. I'm betrayed. I don't know if I can go on.
Well, I hope that Sunday we get to the bottom of this mystery, because clearly I've been missed many times.
No, not at all. So J Money saw it for the first time on December 10th, 2016, along with this fairly large group. It was kind of fun because J Money, if you remember, it's the first time we had tried a double feature, and we'll get to that when we get to the brackets. But this was the second of 2 movies we watched on that day. And one person in the group really disliked Mary Poppins. Mainly, they thought the comedy was broad, and when they were singing, they just hated it, just like anti-musical all the way. Most people, and J Money, you can back me up, most people loved it. You were somewhere in the middle, I think. Am I wrong about that?
I was really more towards the not so thrilled by it than the not. I think I was on the other side of the middle. I didn't. Well, we'll get into it.
Well, I was segueing to your opening thoughts, but I do have. I mean, like on the tape, I just listened to the recording and prep for this. So you were mostly complimentary. There was one person who was extremely anti, and you did not say anything bad. But what are your opening thoughts?
Yeah, I don't think I would say it's a bad movie. It's not my movie. It's not a movie that I enjoy personally that much. But it's like I'm not gonna. I'll give it a free pass. It's a classic Disney film. It's what can you say about that? It's lived up.
I'm clearly gonna have to drink a lot more for this episode. David, Joe, what are your opening thoughts?
Yeah, it's great. I hate these movies, but it's good. Whatever.
So I'm a little lost. What are you trying? I don't know how to rate that. I'm gonna put up a Davie scale. I don't know what to put up.
I mean, it's good, but it's also brutal. So is brutal on there? Is that one of them?
Well,
Brutal's on there, yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
is it too bright?
It's not too bright. The animation that was neat. I'll give it that.
Well, I mean, I
like that.
So it's good and brutal at the same time. That's your opening thought?
Wait, it's well done. I can see that it'd be a great kids movie. I just can't. I hate these movies. Like I hate sitting through this. Like it just kills me.
What do you like? When you say these movies, I'm unclear on what you mean by these movies.
The musicals, the classic musicals. Like I can't do it.
That's kind of close-minded, don't you think?
Really?
Well, yeah, maybe.
So I, of course, cried throughout the film. I thought it's beautiful. I was also surprised by the amount of depth in the film, which we're going to get to shortly. So let me ask you this, guys. What do you think about the overall script, like this overall story? Like, do you have thoughts about that?
I think it's a good kids story, and it's kind of interesting to watch the man come around and the old man come around. So, it's more in depth than where I'd say I was more interested in it than say the King and I. Maybe just it hits me on more of a gut level. It's more accessible in that way.
Okay, J Money, the overall story.
It meanders, but I mean it's supposed to meander. It's supposed to be kind of as far as I'm concerned, kind of free floating and not really held together, by any strong plot.
How do you guys feel about the episodic nature of it? Was it a positive or a deterrent?
It's interesting. I'd say it's a positive.
Keeps things moving, keeps things fresh.
Well, it's also, I think, getting back to kids. I think it's kids come in and out with their attention, and so they can kind of jump back into it.
I mean, I don't think it was made for kids, quite frankly. I'm not saying they wanted to exclude kids either.
Yeah,
no, I do not think it was made for kids.
Yeah, okay, all right. Well, either way, it's good for them. I think it's better. It's easier for them at any rate. In that way.
Okay.
It was made for JB. That's what we're getting to.
Maybe. What do you guys think? One issue that came up is the father's backstory. The person that hated the movie felt that his journey was sort of rushed. Like his transition at the end was, came out of nowhere. I disagree with that. Where do you guys stand on that? In terms of his coming around, the lessons he learns, as it were.
You know what it is that it's not linear. Like there's definitely one step forward, 2 steps back. He starts moving in that direction, but then he kind of falls back a little bit. So it does seem.
But you see the seeds of hope early on, and then it finally grows into something.
I can see why someone might find it abrupt at the end, but
abrupt. Thank you. I was searching for that word, and you found it, abrupt.
But there is a progression, I think.
I agree. I think it's fairly seamless. J Money?
What I would say is that I agree in the sense that it is kind of, to me, a little out of nowhere. Well, maybe not out of nowhere, but it is kind of like resolved really easily. But then again, I'm not watching this movie for realistic interpretations of character. I'm watching this movie for the entertainment value. I don't think it was out of place in this movie at all. I don't think it was out of place in terms of how they set up all the other characters or the tone of this movie in general.
You tend to grade these movies on a curve. You're like, oh, this is a Disney movie, so I'm going to lower my bar. Is that accurate?
Yeah, in some ways. I mean, I guess I'm not trying to say I'm lowering my bar as much as I'm trying to evaluate it on the context that I think it's made for. And I don't think it's, like, again, if we're going to talk about like this character development of the father, I'm not necessarily going to be as strict about whether or not I think that they wrote his character as strongly as they could have, because I don't think that really matters that much in terms of the overall effect of the movie, Like, I'm not going to say that the lack of realism of the characters in this is what has turned me off to the idea of the film, because that's kind of besides the point.
Right, well, I mean, look, it's a different thing. Like, just because there's no suggestion that there's any realism as a part of this film, that doesn't make it effective, and it doesn't necessarily mean the father's journey is somehow has a shortcut.
No, but what I'm responding to specifically is the criticism that the father was too abrupt in his sort of resolution. And what I'm saying is, I don't think that really matters. That even if you don't think that there was enough, explanation in terms of the father changing kind of the way he did towards the end, I don't think you should necessarily fault the movie for that.
Right. Well, I don't, because I don't feel like it was too abrupt, because like David, I sort of saw the seeds throughout the movie. The other thing that came up during the screening that I wanted to bring up is, I mentioned a great amount of depth. Money was one that suggested, your question was what depth, in a very, mean way that you do. And one of the people in the screening had to respond like this. So I'm going to play this audio for you now.
Like the themes about to do this and discipline and what life is supposed to be, and this whole regimented thing, and then how we could actually have a more balanced, like even just the metaphor of the kite at the end.
Is the perfect. I was thinking the same thing. It's a total metaphor.
Yeah, the whole thing is like it really is a deep metaphor on what life is. We have 2 schools of thought. And then if we brought them together, we could actually have a really balanced.
And the song does a really good job.
Because they don't even take his job away at the end, too, because that's not the point. Isn't that you should quit your job and not have a job.
Right.
That's not the point. The point is that you can have a balanced life that includes fun, and and then not just fun, but not fun that like takes you off so that you can't function, like laughing on the ceiling, but like fun that actually is grounded. And to me, there's a huge amount of depth in the movie just from those kinds of things.
Huge amount of depth in the movie is what they say, J Money.
Yeah, I don't buy that at all.
Oh no.
I feel really happy for someone that they could get that much out of it.
Ouch.
No, it's great. I mean, it's why these conversations are fun, because someone can really.
You guys will just have to take it up with the horse's mouth.
Hey guys.
Hey. How's it going?
How are you?
How you doing?
Good. How are you?
Ladies and gentlemen, pop star Shanti Leone joining the show.
Yeah.
So you disagree, huh?
Yep, I totally disagree. But I think they can leave it up to interpretation if you want.
What did you say?
Well, I think you can leave it up to interpretation if you want. That's fine. I don't see a lot of depth there. I think that maybe you're reading into it a little bit too much, but I'm not going to fault you for that.
Okay, so you didn't see anything that was going on. Like, what did you think the whole point of the movie was then?
To have fun. To sweep chimneys.
It was just like one big acid trip, is basically what you're saying.
It kind of was like one big acid trip. I mean, certainly they were trying to, encourage child labor, since there was a lot of that going on. But no, honestly, I think that look, you and JB and everybody else who loves this movie can certainly find things to pull in to the conversation about it. Like, you can certainly look at it in deeper levels. There's onions to this movie. I mean, there's layers to this movie, so you can peel it away. I don't think
What
I can read into it the same way from that point of view, but that's okay.
Give me a layer. What's one of the layers that you saw?
Well, you're the one that's getting the layers. I mean, you're talking about death and a kite. You want to go into that?
You just said peel away the layers, and you peel away the onion. So give me an example of what.
No,
that
I'm saying that you can peel away the onion. I don't think that the onion here has that many layers, but I feel like you guys definitely feel there's quite a few things to go into here.
It's really an onion, is what you're saying. There's no onion here.
Well,
okay, so did you get anything from the kite metaphor? Did you see that at all?
In terms of it being symbolic of death overall.
So it was a frivolous moment, is what you're saying?
Well, okay. I don't know if I would say it was frivolous. I don't know if I would go so far as to talk about it as a metaphor for mortality, just in general.
I don't think that's what she said.
Well, I honestly, I mean, I don't remember entirely.
Pop star Shanti Leon.
That's bring her back.
Surprise.
Bring her back. We're having a conversation. What's going on?
Bring her
I
back.
think she's fed up with you.
She should have the final word.
See that for sure.
As a guest star,
She's
she should
done
have
with
the final
James.
word one way or the other.
Do you have a final word? No, she's done. But there wasn't just. I mean, she wasn't. I don't think she ever said death, right? You said balance. About a more full life is what the kite metaphor was about. But it wasn't just that.
But the whole conversation started by me saying, you saying there was a lot of death in this film, and then I said, what death? And then she answered with the kite.
Death, I thought. Holy.
DEPTH.
Oh, death.
Happened.
Okay.
It did. It. Wow. So now the conversation makes sense.
Everywhere.
All I'm hearing is death. Yeah, guys. Maybe it's me, but I just thought you were saying death over and over again. I'm like, what death? What death is in this film?
Well, I agree. It had nothing to do with death.
Okay, good. So we're back kind of on the same page here.
That was amazing. That's the best thing that's ever happened in the show. That's incredible.
Oh my God! I collect myself. But it wasn't just a work-life balance or death as it happens. We also talked a great deal about how the movie challenges the patriarchy. There's a number of examples of that. The cannon is a great example. The bank itself, the whole suffragette movement as a side story. Another example of ways that the film seems to challenge this concept of patriarchy. So that we had a whole discussion on that. I don't know if you remember that, J Money, and you didn't react adversely to it at the time.
I'm not adverse to the idea that they suggested suffragette activity in this movie, because they did. I mean, that's okay. Does that make it a deep movie?
But do you not?
No, it does not make it a deep movie.
Do you not see how throughout the details of the film, that the film was sort of like suggesting the idiocracy of a patriarchy, the idiocy?
Do you feel like that was the point of the film?
I think that was one of the points of the film. I think that was very much ingrained in the film. Davey?
I don't know if I would say that I thought like that was a point of the film. But to me, that was set dressing in the film. That was to give us some sort of character, but I don't think I saw it as a point behind the film.
It's a theme. I think.
Maybe you keep wanting to.
I think it's a theme. I think it is a theme. Because I mean, the whole.
What's that word? What's that the controversial word?
Yeah, it's a controversial word.
Well, that's the big T word that I'm not allowed to use anymore. Thank you, Davey.
Nobody said you had to stop.
No,
it's just that I'm never ready for that one. When you always ask what the theme is, and tonight I sat down right before, and I was like, gosh, you know what? I keep saying I'm gonna try and think of a theme, and I never do.
Well, there's another one that I just listened to the whole shit on that we had at the screening on December 10th, and the other one we talked about a great deal was classism and how that plays between Bert's character and his many jobs and all the chimney sweeps and the number step in time. The Feed the Birds number, I think, is very impactful in this way. The bank, the way the 1% is portrayed. And there's this one scene in the film that I think puts it all together. All three of these things, classism, patriarchy, and also the work-life balance and the family dynamic. That is all put together in this number known as Fidelity Fiduciary Bank. And so it has all those elements sort of tied into one here. I think it's a really important scene.
Yeah.
What's your point exactly, though? I'm sorry, I missed what you were trying to.
I'm trying to point out the depth of the film, like that these
okay.
sort of undercurrent, these themes. Sorry, I'm going to use the word because Davie introduced it, and as he can tell you as a lawyer, once you introduce a phrase, in a courtroom, it can be used again. So I'm trying to prove these things are there. I mean, I think there is a lot of depth, DEPTH, in the film.
Okay, I guess what I would say is their inclusion to me doesn't make it a deep film. It just makes it a film that I mean, in the case of the classes stuff, it's to me that's parodying a certain thing. And in the case of suffragettes, that's like a texture that they're bringing into it for a character. But I don't think the film was necessarily about the women's movement. I do think the film was about, I guess, the class system in a sense that ultimately was trying to encourage one of the main characters to sort of like, change his lifestyle and let go a little bit and become a little bit more joyful. But again, I don't think the movie was about the class system. I think that was part of the texture of the storyline. And I also feel like...
But Mary Poppins
was
buddy how to live a better life. She came in, and that was the whole point. How can you say that isn't really what they were trying to do?
I don't think that the idea of addressing the class situation is what they're trying to do. I think the idea of addressing living a better life is what they're trying to do.
I think it's all what they're trying to do. I mean, I think that's the main
point. Isn't class system part of life? It isn't like the women's suffrage part of life. It isn't all of this about how can we be happier in our life in all of these different ways? Doesn't that affect life, all of that?
Well, it certainly might, but you have to actually draw the conclusions in the film itself to do that. I mean, them just including it or talking about the fact that it exists doesn't mean that they're celebrating it in the same way that you're talking.
But I mean, true or false, Mary Poppins does not just change the children. True or false?
She does. Wait, she does not, or she does just change the children?
She does not just change the children.
She does not just change the children. No, she changes everybody around her.
Right.
Right.
And in more ways than one. And one of the points that Shanti made in the audio clip is that it's not just about having a happy life or frivolous life, where you just like laugh all the time and float to the ceiling. It's more to it than that. It's about the balance. Furthermore, the suffragette movement is not a theme, but that is an element to the larger theme. I mean, the patriarchy and classism, I think, are directly connected. And so maybe it shouldn't be two separate themes. That's what came out in the discussion. So I brought them up separately.
Okay. Ultimately, if you're trying to say there's a lot more depth to this film than a basic sort of like happy musical, then okay. I don't think that what you're describing as an example is in and of itself deep. I think that you're talking about these themes that they're hinting at, that perhaps if it had been a movie that was about those things, it could have gone in that direction. But
that's what I think is great about it. I mean, I think it still is effective in starting a conversation on those things. I mean, the Feed the Birds number on its own does a lot of work, and the movie has so much more. It's packed. This movie is packed full of allegory and richness and social commentary.
Okay. I guess maybe we just don't. Maybe we're in different places in terms of what it means to have like a certain amount of depth in the film to begin with.
But I mean, what's great about the movie is that in spite of all those layers, the onion that you were talking with pop star Shanti Leone about, in addition to that, it's entertaining. You know what I mean? Like that's brilliance. That's like that's the goal, to be enjoyable and entertaining. Like when we talked about Amore 4 days ago, like it had symbolism and depth in a way that was very bleak, but at the same time, Davie, was Amore entertaining to you?
No.
Okay, Mary Poppins is fun, and it still manages to achieve all those goals. It's for kids, to some degree, on a very basic level. Kids enjoy it. I don't think it talks down to kids, though. But it also has a lot of lessons about life itself and the social system with which we lived in then and live in now. They're speechless, guys. Speechless. I've never seen them so quiet. It's because pop star Shanti Leone is lurking in the background. They're afraid.
That's true. I am definitely afraid of Shanti. That is absolutely 100% true.
You should be.
3,000 miles away.
Next time I see her, she's out for blood. She will definitely take me down. I will die in the shadow.
Maybe that's why you're so quiet in the audio discussion, because
all he could see was death.
Oh,
death.
That's right. It's got death on the brain. You just watched Amore so recently that. All right, guys, I'll let you off the hook. Let's talk about something that nobody ever talks about with this movie. And I mean, I guess you're not going to talk positively about it, but direction. Because nobody ever talks about the film direction of this movie, and it's such a popular movie. But I mean, like, there's a lot of things that stuck out to me. The blocking for the camera is one of them. That's one of the very basic directorial things. But also the level of detail, a tremendous amount of detail. And these are some of the examples that came out in the thing. You know, during the animated sequence, you know, when they're riding fake horses, you know, through the fields in a race, merry-go-round horses. When the horses, you know, go into the land, they actually like make little marks, tracks, if you will. And also, like, there's this moment when the father, before he's going in to meet with his bosses, he cleans the shoes with the back of his pant leg. Little details, like in a big movie, the details make all the difference. And I thought that was beautifully done from a directorial point of view. Guys, what do you got?
That scene that you're talking about, I remember being thinking that it was sort of maybe ahead of its time, kind of the precursor to Roger Rabbit. Really not what you asked, but it's that scene. So that's really all I have to say about it.
All right, I'll bite the bullet. I'll bite though, and I'll say, all right. So that's that's another one of the things that came up a lot in the conversation is, you know, the technical aspects of it. Like, it did win an Oscar for special effects. It was the second ever visual effects Oscar winner, Cleopatra being the first one, incidentally, episode 31.3. We talked about that. With, you know, the craft, and that's not just cinematography, production design, but yes, the animation live action mix, everybody across the board thought that was well done, including J Money, as I recall.
Yeah, absolutely. The technical end of the stuff is great. I mean, I guess to your point, JB, it's a very complicated film to shoot, and I think that the direction from that point of view, sure, it deserves a lot of recognition. I mean, there's a lot of different things that are happening in this movie. There's a lot of different, in terms of media, there's a lot of different, like, set stuff that's happening. There's a lot of weird little sort of transitions, I guess is what I would say. It's a complicated movie to look at, so it makes sense that you could, you know, laud the director.
Is that a criticism, a complicated movie to look at? It sounded like a backhanded compliment.
Oh, no, I didn't mean that backhandedly at all. I guess what I meant was that there's a lot of things happening in a lot of different scenes, and he has to put it all together in a comprehensive way, and he does. It's a he, right?
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Sadly, that's a good guess. Robert Stevenson is his name, and he did get an Oscar nomination for Best Director. But Mary Poppins would only win, like, it won special effects, it won actress, it also won editing, strangely enough. My Fair Lady won all the other technical awards. But it's interesting that Mary Poppins won for editing, maybe because of the episodic nature. One more topic, you can get to choose. We can talk about performances or music. Pick one.
Performance. I mean, you want to ask the Oscars, so we should probably do performances, right?
Okay. What do you think, Julie Andrews?
I just great, you know.
Davie?
She was, you know, wonderful.
Davie, you're killing me in this episode. I swear to God, I'm getting nothing.
Boy, you keep making me watch the musicals, man. This is what you get. Like, I don't know. It was a great movie that I didn't like. I don't know what to tell you.
I don't understand that statement. It's like the third time you said that.
How do you not understand that statement, though?
It's a great movie that I didn't like.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a basic rule of us looking at film in general. Is that, I mean, there are plenty of things that I don't like that I can recognize as being works of art or works that are iconic works that deserve recognition. I mean, yes, this is one of them. That's what I was saying in the beginning. I don't personally like this film that much, but I understand why it's worth recognizing. I understand the artistic value of it.
Do you understand why it would rise above other, you know, Disney films?
Yeah.
Yeah, I probably certainly. I mean, I'm not again familiar with the entire selection of Disney features, but yeah, is this better than, say, I don't know, throw one out there?
Would you agree that there's a certain, you know, I don't want to say cachet is the wrong word, but I mean, you would agree that there is a certain stigma that comes with being a Disney movie that this, you know, at least from a depth and technological point of view, this rises above.
Yeah,
okay.
I think that's a good point. But maybe not so much anymore. But yeah, I think up until maybe very recently, yeah.
Okay, and those of you that didn't watch the Tomorrowland episode, I can tell you it was my number 3 all-time Disney live-action film. I mean, there are a couple that I enjoy more, but and I mean, you know, J Money, you were the one that said in the screening, your quote was that Julie Andrews elevated the movie.
Yeah, I'll stand by that. I think that she brings such a level of grace. You know, it's interesting because I feel like she is one of the few characters in this film where you're actually seeing somebody struggle with their feelings in a way. Like, I guess I feel like there's a lot of really broad strokes to the characters in the film otherwise. Even with the father who does, you know, change his direction, and even with some of the other side characters, Julie Andrews is like almost in a lot of ways the most human character in this film, even though she's so otherworldly. And I feel like that she carries the weight of that. She carries the weight of the emotional response in a lot of ways.
It's such like an iconic performance. You know what I mean? It's so difficult to deliver these sort of iconic, you know, memorable. It's a great character, obviously, but she does it. So many, you know, Emily Blunt's trying it next in the sequel.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I don't know about that.
That'll be interesting to hear about after you see it and tell me about it.
You don't want to see Lin-Manuel Miranda as Bert?
I mean, as tempting as it is.
Speaking of Bert, let's talk about Dick Van Dyke, because he was the more controversial element that we were talking about in the discussion on December 10th, 2016. Pop star Shanti Leon, for example, was one of the people who used words like great, lovely, which is a favorite word of pop star Shanti Leon. Other people said awesome. In what people forget, by the way, and I don't know if Davey noticed, but it's actually a dual role. Davey, do you notice that?
No.
Aha.
Dick Van Dyke also plays the bank boss, the old man.
Oh, get out. Okay, neat. I didn't notice that.
Wow, he likes the movie so much more now.
Yeah.
Historically, Dick Van Dyke has gotten a bad rap for this performance because of the accent. Most of the people in the audience in our screening didn't care, but you know, their argument was charisma trumps accent, and they're not sure if anyone else can play the role. Where are you guys at?
Yeah, that's certainly how I feel.
I don't care. Yeah.
Like, honestly, again, I go back to the whole realism thing. Who cares if he nailed a Cockney accent or not? Like, honestly, why would that really even matter that much in this situation? He's such a magical character.
I didn't even realize he was behind it. I just thought it was like this stylized thing. Like, he was just doing his own thing. Like,
yeah. See, people don't realize it was a dual role. In the middle of his TV fame, he was still doing the Dick Van Dyke Show at the time. And the other performance that's worth noting is David Tomlinson as Mr. Banks, and it's really he's the protagonist ultimately about this movie. As you know, if you've seen the Emma Thompson, Tom Hanks movie Saving Mr. Banks, you know that this movie is really about saving Mr. Banks. David Tomlinson, longtime British actor, then became like a Disney guy after this movie. I think he's got nuanced moments that fit within the framework of this style of this movie, this sort of slightly larger, broader style of the movie. But I think it's a beautiful performance, guys.
yeah, sure.
Do you really have nothing intelligent to say about this?
I'm trying so hard, but I thought I did pretty well with the whole, progression thing. And I came up with the word abrupt.
I mean, we fed it to you on a platter with all this stuff about toppling the patriarchy and classism and work-life balance and family, and I'm getting nothing.
No, sure. You keep saying it, and I'll just keep agreeing. I don't know, man.
And I have to say, even though, I actually, J Money, I thought you were on the total opposite side of this. Like, I just listened to the screening, and you sounded so the audio for the talk back, and you sounded so
now though.
Yeah, maybe. But I mean, the interesting thing about it, I actually think, J Money, it was one of the best discussions we ever had. Like, the depth, and we also had a side discussion about whether Bert and Mary would ever get together. I don't know if we want to open that can of worms now.
Right.
But
that would be a great sequel, by the way.
well, maybe Lin-Manuel Miranda and Emily Blunt. All right, guys, shall we move on to the brackets?
Sure. Let's wait. Unless Pop Star Shanti Leon has anything to say.
It's almost like a Christ figure in some way.
Biblical.
Like just coming in and
saving
everybody in the way that was perfect for them and whatever needed to be looked at.
It's kind of beautiful.
All right. No, that's awesome.
I'm gonna give her the last one.
I wish I would have seen that.
So you'll have to watch it again, Davy Joe.
No, I don't.
Okay. All right. So anyway, it's time for the Classic Movie Showdown. Very exciting. Okay, Davey, it's your time to shine. It's time for you to read the rules, the bracket rules.
The movies have to be 15 years old or older, and they're screened at, screenings that you do. And in order for people to vote, they have to vote. They have to watch it in your presence. It has to be within a year, and you don't vote unless you need to break a tie.
That's correct. And as far as the audience is concerned of that screening, we did not come to a conclusion because it did end in a tie. And so J Money does not know the winner because I am going to break the tie live here tonight. With that said, we did something very unique in this particular bracket, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, refresh my memory on that, though.
This is They're useless, guys. The audience I'm reaching out to, these guys are useless. This is the first time that we ever showed movies going against each other back to back. We actually did a double of these two movies, and the reason that we did tonight's episode of Mary Poppins instead of what it goes up against is what it goes up against one of our 1966 films. And we thought we might as well not do 1966 films for a while because you talked about them ad nauseum. So here is the bracket. It's the 60s bracket. It's the bracket that's done. And we have number 5 seed Mary Poppins going up against number 12 seed Blow Up. So Blow Up from Michael Antonioni is what is on the docket for here today. And J Money, you were one of the voters that day that won, that on one side of the aisle. But before we do it, should we talk a little bit about Blow Up, because we on the 19th review it only came up in passing, and you're saying you loved it because you have this thing about what is appropriate for an Oscar and what's not, that no one understand. With that said, do you want to say something about Blow Up, because it was your first time seeing it when we watched it together on December 10th.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I don't honestly remember what we were talking about in terms of it being Oscar-worthy or not.
I felt it wasn't Hollywood enough to count as Oscar-worthy. That's my interpretation of what you're saying. It doesn't count as an Oscar movie.
To some degree. I mean, I know that I guess I've never really made myself clear about how I mean that to you. Yeah, I don't think it's a movie that is made for a mass audience in the sort of way that I think a lot of the Oscar nominees are made for a mass audience, even if they're not necessarily wide releases or really widely seen. There's a certain level to them usually that makes it consumable to a mass audience eventually. Blow Up is a little bit more tricky, I think, and Blow Up has, I don't know, some more finicky elements to it. There's a pacing in it that I think people might find slower. There's some sort of certain racy content, as we can talk about at some point if you want.
I mean, it's one of the first films ever to show a vagina.
Yeah, so I mean, it's there you go. I mean, sure, Davie Joe perked up about that one, but and then it has a relatively open-ended sort of conclusion. So I think there's a lot of things in it that would be challenging to an audience, especially at the time and even nowadays.
And we had a great discussion about that as well, and I'll maybe to talk about it a little bit just because it's our only chance to. But Davie Joe, it was your first time watching Blow Up, I bet.
Well, yeah, I didn't see it.
What?
I ran out of time. I sometimes we never talk about the other movies, so I
Davie Joe letting the world down, letting his country down. So some of the things that we talked about included, in that screening, J Money, you said it was one of the best framing you've ever seen in a movie in terms of shot framing.
I think that I was talking specifically about a lot of scenes that were happening in a park, and I'm trying to remember now, JB, because clearly I don't remember our conversations from a few months ago, like you do.
Well, I also record them and listen to them again, so that's helpful. You also had a great point about the use of negative space.
Negative space became a huge part of the way that the tension unfolded between the characters there, because there's a sense of threat. And there's also a sense of him sort of discovering this activity. I love that. I love the way that the camera was sort of pulled back and letting you see a lot of really open area to kind of create, to me, again, I would say more stress, more sort of tension in the scene.
And it is kind of a bleak movie.
You think it is? I didn't think it was a bleak movie. I mean, I think that it's an interesting movie, but it has some bleak elements to it. But I wouldn't say it was bleak. I thought it was actually kind of uplifting by the end.
Oh, I definitely didn't find it uplifting in the end.
No? Okay.
So let's move on to the vote And it's going to be weird because J Money voted live at the, was one of the voters live on December 10th, and Davey didn't watch this, so we're not going to get new information. So obviously the audience, where you landed on this, Blow Up versus Mary Poppins.
Yeah, I mean, I'm going with Blow Up on this one for me.
Yeah, and you did that in December 10th, but the other half of the audience said Mary Poppins and left it in a tie, and I said I would break that tie live here tonight when we finally got a chance to do the show. I can tell you right now what moves on in the 60s bracket. And David Joe, what do you think I chose?
I mean, you chose Mary Poppins.
Yeah, no, I would think that you would chose Mary Poppins in this situation.
Yeah, I mean, I like Blow Up, but Mary Poppins moves on. I mean, and this particular, sure, I'd seen both before, and I wasn't sure going into it. I mean, I think I was leaning towards Blow Up, but this last screening and the depth and emotion of Mary Poppins, and to do a top 10, I talk about emotional engagement and how that's really, you know, the ultimate litmus test, and Mary Poppins has that in spades. And I don't think it's just for kids. Like people. Like, I think it's for anyone with a heart and a pulse, which is why these guys don't like it.
Yep. What's your vote, man? Mary Poppins. Certainly, it is her hottest role. So I guess I see your draw from that point of view.
You haven't seen Hawaii yet.
True. You're right. I have not seen Hawaii. A lot of coconuts, a lot of lays.
In more ways than one. All right, moving on. And this trivia tidbit's going to be, I'm going to try it out and see how it goes. The next classic movie that we're going to do is the most famous movie starring someone in this room. That's your trivia tidbit at the moment. Next up is our sound off. In about 4 days, we're going to do some fun things. We're going to revisit our 1966 show and review to find out about the origin of Davey's nickname. And we're going to do a script review. First time doing that. There's a movie coming out called Bright, starring Will Smith and Joel Edgerton, directed by David Ayer, and it's coming to Netflix, and we got the script. All that on the next Sound Off, our freeform segment. See you soon.